Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, folks, FSU and Clemson to the SEC. This could be happening soon. Also, A&M and Notre Dame to the Big Ten is a very distinct possibility. And we're going to get into all those reasons why and what's going on. Now, there's a lot of articles and news about the possibility of FSU and Clemson going to the Southeastern Conference. And it says they're not hearing from the Big Ten. It talks about how FSU and Clemson, they've been predicted by Greg Swaim to join the SEC. They're talking about it July 12th, and I'm hearing a lot about July. And there's some reasons for this that have to do with marketing and things along those lines. Now, there is a date of mid-August, sort of the drop-dead date to do this for the following year. But a lot of people are talking about July, and we're going to get into that too because Josh Pate brought that up just a few days ago. But a big part of the reason why the SEC is a good fit for FSU and for Clemson has to do with AAU accreditation. It says ACC schools that have a choice will take a Big Ten offer because they pay a little bit more. But Swaim said, and those that get an SEC offer will take it over the Big 12. And that's true because, again, SEC and Big Ten are pretty close. So if your school is not yet AAU accredited, you won't be getting a Big Ten offer regardless of what you've been told about your school's research and academic ranking. And neither Clemson or Florida State are AAU accredited at this point. With well over half of the current vetted Big Ten schools adamantly opposed to non-AAU accredited schools, and they're still ticked off about Nebraska losing their AAU accreditation. It says FSU and Clemson will announce they are leaving the ACC. We're hearing July 12th, give or take a few days, and will both take an SEC invite. However, this will open up the entire ACC, and they'll all be scrambling for a lifeboat in the SEC or Big 12, with some current ACC schools who are already AAU accredited possibly getting a Big Ten invite. So it sounds like a lot's going to happen really soon. I mean, we're only talking, a week away from these dates. So a lot can happen next week and the following week. And I know there's a bunch, I'm going to get deluged by FSU people. Well, we're going to get AAU, and Big Ten said they don't care about that. The only school that's not AAU accredited in Big Ten is Nebraska, and it's because they lost their accreditation, and they are taking grief over it like you can't believe, to the point they're desperate to try to get it back because they don't want to get kicked out. So this is a big deal, and I've been hearing this for a long time. Now, there are others that think the way that many of you do, that Brett McMurphy says there's a disconnection of what direction the next round will be. Says McMurphy told Feinbaum that the SEC won't have interest in the Noles or Tigers and will instead target schools from the state of North Carolina and Virginia to expand into untapped markets. And that does make sense. We've already got the Florida Gators and we've got the South Carolina Gamecocks. What do we need Clemson and FSU for? Because they're quality products. That's why. These are big-time schools, and they have a tremendous football team, both of them. So they would be an excellent get for the SEC. That'd be why you'd want them. The Big Ten would want them to get into Florida and to get into South Carolina. That would make sense for them. But again, the AAU thing's a problem. And to back up this July 12th or sometime in July date, let's listen to what Josh Pate has to say.
I told you last week, I think on the Late Kick Extra Pod, on the legal side of this front, I do have pretty decent contacts. These contacts do not necessarily care about sports. They care about their legal careers. And so they informed me a couple of weeks ago, get ready. Get ready. These are not people that are prone to hyperbole. Again, they don't care. But they did give me the good courtesy of letting me know that whatever kind of dominoes were put in motion a couple of weeks ago, it's going down. So we're coming up on Big Ten Media Days. We're coming up on SEC Media Days. I keep getting told from people who are much more in the know on this than me, July. I think there's a mid-August date that technically, if you're a Florida State and you want to get out in time for 2025, you kind of need to have the ball already down the hill by that point. That's in the weeds.
So the fact that Josh Pate has been talking about this and that July is a very important month, he wouldn't just put that out there. I can tell you he's a pretty cautious person to just throwing anything out there, especially something as important as this. So obviously he's been getting information, or people have been talking to him saying, look for something big in July. Now, I might have a tendency to have to agree with that. I don't see any reason not to at this point because there's just been too much smoke. There's got to be fire coming. So I'm expecting something very soon. Now, let's talk about this story going on about Texas A&M and Notre Dame to Big Ten. talks about a lot of these teams in the Big Ten desperately want Texas A&M and Notre Dame in their conference. And this again talks about Greg Swaim. Swaim reiterates those programs don't appear keen on bending from the AAU accreditation, with a requirement that could keep FSU and Clemson out of the conference. And he said, I still hear from several that the Buckeyes, Michigan, Penn State, and the 4 incoming Pac-12 schools desperately want Texas A&M and, of course, Notre Dame. And he reported back in April, he said the Big Ten will definitely have a school in Texas by 2026-27 calendar. And this was an email that the guy received from a Chicago Big Ten source talking about how they'll definitely have a Texas school in by 2026. Says, as we reported months ago, Texas A&M and the Big Ten have been having serious third-party talks for over 6 months. Said that likely means Texas A&M will negotiate an out from the SEC, with Texas stealing their Lone Star State shine in the SEC, especially given that the programs with the most influence so badly want the Aggies in the Big Ten. So I can tell you A&M is not happy about Texas coming into the SEC. My understanding is they were assured that would not happen when they came in years ago. So this is not a happy situation for A&M. Texas and Texas A&M are like this. They cannot stand one another. And just recently, we know that Texas came in and raided A&M for their baseball coach.
Hi. This is going to be a great year.
And I covered the crap out of that. And that has really opened a wound. And Texas, of course, poured salt in it because they loved it. And they foolishly made their new baseball coach look like a liar because they went and fired the baseball coach the day of the national championship game, or at least it came out that they had done that. And, of course, immediately the press asked the A&M coach if he was going to be going to Texas, and he, pretty much lied.
I love you.
Liar!
And said he wasn't. He was going to stick with A&M in a very roundabout way, coach speak. But anyway, he made it clear to me or anybody with ears that he was staying, and then he didn't. Next day he left. So there's a lot of anger over that, and they don't want Texas in the same conference with them. And the Big Ten would be a heck of a landing spot. You'd even make more money than they are now. And I can completely understand why Big Ten wants to get into Texas. That is a huge market. And A&M has a monster fan base. So does Texas. So that has legs. Now, the Notre Dame thing, look, any conference would take Notre Dame. They have one of the biggest fan bases all over the country. You don't have to be in one particular spot. They have people everywhere. And they have been very hesitant to join a conference. For some reason, they think they're just a little bit maybe too good for a conference.
Ew, get off of me. Ugh, as if.
Well, the reality is, with the way things are going, you need to be in a conference. You're missing out on money because the conferences are going to be paying more and more and more. You're also missing out on a possible spot in the playoff as far as a bye. Because right now, the top 4 conference champions get a bye. Well, they're not in a conference. They can't get a bye. So that hurts them in the playoff. Now they can only go after the bottom 8 spots. So there's a lot of reasons for them to join, and the Big Ten's probably the obvious spot. Now, we would certainly take them in the SEC. But Big Ten's a better spot for them, really. And I could absolutely see A&M going to the Big Ten. I could. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I understand the way it is between Texas and them, but I know it's really bad. So don't be shocked if this happens. And it'll probably happen in the next 12 months on that. It might happen next few months. So this is what we're watching right now, and I'm looking for big fireworks coming soon. And you should too. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all these big sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, 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 right there. You won't burn a calorie hitting that button. And right over here is the most recent video that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy based on your viewing history. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.